and are ready for it are here now. And guys, I just want to first off thank you for being here, but more importantly, I want to thank Chanika Turner. She's our I don't know, what would I call you? My premier speaker, the speaker. What do we call you, Shanika?
Um, I'm co-hosting it with you.
Okay, there we go. Well, but here's the reality, guys. I just want to you maybe pretty much most of you guys know who Shanika Turner is, but I'm going to tell you straight out, she is one of the strongest female leaders that I've ever known. She's got the heart of a champion and a mind that is so brilliant that if you ever talk to someone and you feel like I understand what they're saying, but I also know enough to know I don't understand everything they're saying. I would tell you that is Shanika Turner, just because she has such a great mindset and such a great heart. So, Shanika, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you on this program.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me again.
Of
I
course.
enjoy it.
Of course. And and I think too, I mean, really one of the reasons why we're here tonight is because we had such incredible reviews and people were just afterwards like we want more of this women's and self-worth and wealth and net worth and self-worth and how do we overcome this and I'll be honest with you, Shanika, you did such a great job last time. I'm really super excited just to kind of share with you what we're doing tonight and just kind of share with you some ideas and really glean from you. So guys, hope you have your pen and paper ready because we're about to have a phenomenal session. Phenomenal. I don't know how to spell it, but I can say it.
And I guess we can let them know also that this will be a once a month. So that way, because we didn't get a chance to really, spread the word about tonight. But did we say the third Wednesday of the month?
Third Wednesday of every month,
Mhm.
8 o'clock at night, because I think it's just is needed. There's too many people out there, and this is for specifically with the idea of women. But let's be honest, we all have hangups, we all have issues. This is like even Bill Render, when he read the book, he said he didn't realize until the very end that it was for women. And I was like, well, yeah, but it's like the wealth choice. It's for everyone. We all have these, truths are truths no matter who it is. So, Shanika, I'm going to kind of change a little bit differently our format tonight. And one of the things I wanted to last time we really just got to hear from you, glean from you. And I know that a lot of people had a lot of questions. And I think just moving forward, I'll speak for myself. When I read the book Worthy, it really changed me what I believe because she taught me a couple of things. Number one, something about shadow beliefs.
Mhm.
And what she said a shadow belief is it's beliefs that we get when we're so young, we don't have a choice.
Mhm.
And because it happens when we're so young, it actually ends up becoming in the shadows of our own subconscious.
Mhm.
And so we have these beliefs, these programs about money that we're not even aware of, but they hinder us and they hamstring us. And here's the crazy thing. I'm going to share this because I didn't want to mess it up. But she gave me like 52, but I'll give you a few of mine. But she has you write down this part of this process of your shadow beliefs. So let me kind of just show you just a few that she had mentioned that rang true to me. Like one of them is that I often run out of money before my bills are paid.
Mm.
I maintain credit card debt. I don't look at or reconcile my bank statements. I don't have a retirement account. I haven't created a budget or I created one, but don't stick to it. I don't know how much I'm worth financially. I don't have a will or other estate documents. I shop compulsively. I'm afraid if I spend money, I'll end up destitute. No matter how hard I try, I never seem to have enough money. Since I don't earn the money myself, I feel guilty when I spend it. I'm afraid to ask for a raise or promotion, or I work in a job I hate. Money seems to burn a hole in my pocket. I spend money on other people, but rarely on myself. I've always relied on others to take care of me financially. Now, those are just a smattering of what she said was if you have these results, it's because there's some kind of shadow belief in the back.
Mhm.
So I guess you could just start out, what do some of those things mean to you, or what do they kind of bring to your mind when you see those?
I mean, a lot of that stems back from, like you said, your upbringing. I vividly remember my mom, and she didn't handle money very well. I remember having to, when I was of age, work a job to help her pay, to keep the lights on or keep the water on. And I was in high school, doing that. And so one of the main things that I learned early on when I became an adult was, I wanted to make sure that my living expenses were paid. My mom moved around a lot when I was young, because she got evicted from this apartment. So then we moved over here, and she was there for a while and then got evicted from there. So like she moved around a lot. So literally my elementary years, I probably went to maybe like 6 different schools in during those years. But I learned that I need to make sure that all my living expenses were paid, make sure I had somewhere to lay my head. And I just learned that from watching her and what she did, and having to chip in and pay for things. And so I was, yeah, I was money conscious, but I was always like, I want to make sure everything is paid for. So that was my thing. I need to make sure everything is paid for before I do anything. And so that was just because of my upbringing. So when I saw that list, it's like, okay, I resonated with a lot of those things. And it's all because you'd be surprised what you learn from your parents.
Mhm.
I did a research about how you parent the way you were parented. And if
Mm.
you want to change that, you got to consciously change it,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you watch your parents, like you research your parents from the day you were born all the way through to when you move out. So you act just like them. So you hear stuff saying, oh, I act just like my mom right now. Why is that? Because that's what you learned.
That's true. I mean, what does it say? Like, I sound like my mother now. It's
Hmm.
official. I've become my mom.
Hmm.
And that's, and I think too, wouldn't you agree that it's not just even from our parents, that that's huge. It's also from society.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's talk about having the stigma of wealth. Period. Wealthy people are evil. They stand on the backs of the small guy, and whatever they have, they stole, and those kind of things. But what also? I mean, look at society. Tell me one woman that is wealthy and nice.
Well, we're shown that they're not.
Cruella Deville.
Yeah, we're shown that they're not. I remember when I went to MIT, and it was Bill Whittle. We were in his MIT room, and literally I asked him. I said, I need to learn how to be a coach so I can coach my people. I said, I'm good at encouraging, I'm good at motivating, but I need to like move them. I need to. And he told me, he said, that is coaching. Continue doing what you're doing, because we're told that you got to be like mean and roughhouse people to get them to the next level. And so I thought that's what I need to learn how to do. And he was like, no, that's what coaching is. It's motivating and encouraging. Continue doing what you're doing, and you're going to get where you want to go.
Wow, but isn't it crazy how you actually needed permission
Yeah.
to be who you are, which is already a great leader? I mean, you're at MIT, and what people don't realize, this is not Massachusetts and just whatever it is. I don't even know what it's called,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that place. It's not the smart place of college or technology. It's MIT is millionaires in training. When you become regional vice president with Primerica, which we both work in, you get sent to like this boot camp for millionaires, and you only hang out with millionaires.
Hmm.
And so it's just kind of crazy, but that's what, yeah, but you need permission from one of the better, I mean, he's known to be one of the greatest coaches in our company, short of Art Williams and a few, but I mean, he's really phenomenal. To have to give you permission, because isn't that I mean, that is the real deal. We are never like, I don't know about you, but I always thought this, like, if I was going to do well in business, I had to wear pants and
Yeah.
blazers, and I walked. I mean, I used to joke when I was a manager, they could hear me walking because I hit the heel strike so hard that it
Hmm.
would echo throughout the entire office. Everyone always knew where I was. But isn't that the case, Nika? So I think, like,
Yeah.
for women, we almost like we have to choose: am I going to be wealthy and in control of my finances,
Yeah.
or am I going to be, you know, uh, poor but happy?
Hmm.
you know.
I mean, that's the choice that we're kind of sold. That there's more to life than just money. There, and we're just kind of sold that in order to be happy, you don't have to. You be content where you are. Why you want more? Be content where you are, and do social services or things like that to make you feel better. But having more money is not going to make you feel better.
Wow, that's powerful. That you have to help others more than yourself. so that you can feel good about what you do.
Yeah. And I think that's what really hinders people in business is that in Primerica, because like, for instance, I have a person that I'm coaching, and I had to tell this person early on that, you helping people is a direct relation, a correlation to the amount of money you make. So you should feel good about it. But this person had a stigma against asking for the check or asking people to get life insurance because he knew that he was going to make money once he asked them to get life insurance. And so it's really, it's because of all the stigma it is against money, and how, the root of all evil is money, and all these things we're told about money. And so it's kind of hard to want it's an internal conflict. So it's like, it's kind of hard to want money when money is bad.
Right. And so at one point you're like, I want money, I need money. But then these shadow beliefs behind you are like, you don't want money.
Mm-hmm.
Or don't get too much. Well, how much is too much? I'll get 1 penny less. Like, how much is too much? But
Yeah.
there are these, so kind of moving. So we know we have these shadow beliefs. And here's the truth is that we don't really know our shadow beliefs until we look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I found really not surprising, but a relief is to hear, Chanika, that you're a counselor, right? You study counseling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you went through a whole bunch of self-improvement before you came to Primerica.
Absolutely.
And so, and I think that, and I'll just speak for myself. I remember when you first came out, I was like, oh my God. I remember you'd sit like 5 rows back, and the more money you made, the more closer you got to the front row. And I remember just watching you going, who is that? Oh my gosh, she's so awesome. And I thought, wow, she's doing it so fast. And isn't it that we always compare,
We
right?
do.
We
We
do,
do.
but before we go there, just kind of maybe explain a little bit, like what is some of the pre-work before you came to business that allowed you to move so quickly?
I mean, a lot of it stems from my upbringing. A lot of people don't know the things that I went through. I was, abused as a child. I was molested. I spoke up about it. And anytime, I mean, just like with arguments, anytime truth is spoken, controversy surrounds it. And so when you're the only person in your family to speak up about something, you're almost like the black sheep. And so I literally was the black sheep. I went through CPS, then I had to go live with my dad. Like it was, so I had to learn that I need to train myself on the things I don't want my kids to go through. And so I was a self-counselor at first. Literally, I read every self-improvement book I could get my hands on. And that was way before Primerica. That was when I was in high school. I became a teenage mom. So there's a whole nother set of stigma that's attached to that. So I was already in the process of learning how to change my thinking process in general, growing up in the hood, being molested, being a single mom, being a teenage mom, and then how to break those barriers. So my whole goal was, I'm going to show you, and I was a nerd. I was a complete nerd in high school. So I was the last person my parents thought was going to get pregnant. But, there's 2 things that happen when you get molested. You either run to sex or you run away from sex. So I ran
That's
to
true.
sex. It just is what it is.
Hey, yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah. But I was already in the process of researching, how do you change, your upbringing? Is it, like in psychology, they say, is it environment or is it family? So it's a mixture of both. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to break the barriers in the generational curses in my family, and I didn't want to pass those down. And so I'd been researching and reading early, way before Primerica. And then, of course, I became a counselor. I worked at a domestic violence shelter where I helped, women in those situations. And that was my counseling for me, is going through that, helping other women. And then I did receive some professional counseling, but I was already in a process of wanting to get better and wanting to be better than what, I grew up in. And so when Primerica came, literally, it was like my first fast start school. It was like I was at home. Like I saw everyone, because it was about self-improvement. And I was already on that journey of self-improvement. So it was like someone who's already on that journey get involved with a whole business that's about self-improvement. I was like, oh, this is home.
And it's, thank you, because I mean, I'm seeing all these comments too. People are like, thank you for the truth. Because, and, interesting, because like I also moved around a lot when I was a kid, right? I was also sexually abused as a child. I was
Mhm.
also the whistleblower. And you mentioned these stigma, right? You said the stigma, but also very plainly labels.
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy for us to label things. And I think once we slap that on them,
Mhm.
whoever it is,
Mhm.
or even ourselves,
Mhm.
that it really allows us to kind of just shove that, like, we're not going to look at that anymore. You're labeled. I know who you are. So what was it that you really were able to, because we talk about repetition and all that, but, speaking as someone who's a counselor, who's self-counseled and has done such incredible work and such an amazing example for us, what are some of the things that you've done, or that you've done, that actually really helped reprogram that out?
Well, first, it's really consciously changing your unconscious. And I'm gonna say that again because I don't think people really understand what that means, but it's really getting to the root and changing it, because there's so many thoughts that run through our head, so many emotions that run through us, and we don't even know it. Like, it's just going over and over again. And when you really stop and think about what thoughts are going through your head, because whatever's going through your head is going to come. It just is. And so if you're always thinking of the past and what happened, like I talk to people all day long, and they ask me, they say, Shanika, how did you overcome your childhood? Like, how did you overcome that? And I was like, I, I read a book on forgiveness. Like I'm an avid reader, so I'm always reading on how to become a better person. How do I get better? How do I get past this? And so I didn't dwell on it. Like, I didn't dwell on it. Um, I came to peace with it, and I just said, that's what happened to me, but that's not who I am. And for so many people, they mistaken what happened to them to who they really are. And it's just not it, So, and all that has to do with you feeling worthy of yourself. And so if you feel like that's who you are, then automatically you start to feel down about yourself. You get in this defeat mode of you're not good enough, and this is just what life is, and this is just how it's going to be. You start to like deal with the life that's dealt to you instead of saying, no, I'm going to change it. And so I've always been like, my favorite quote is that I'm going to create the life that I want. Not the one that was given to me from a childhood, but I'm going to create the life that I want. And so when you understand that you can create the life you want, then you start to change the narrative. And people don't
Wow.
know how to change the narrative.
Okay, so there's just so much you just talked about right there that's so incredible. But the consciously changing your unconscious, the narrative, you're the author of your life, and whatever but you we can write we can write a horror story,
Mm-hmm.
or we can write the heroic novel, right? We can do one or the other. And there's so much I want to talk to you about that was just so powerful. But I think, okay, so here I am. I want to consciously change my unconscious. I know that something's holding me back, and so how do I identify what those things are? Like, how do I identify my subconscious?
Okay, that's good. I mean, the first thing you got to do is realize, what are you thinking? Like, and come to truth with what really happened. Come to truth with what you're telling yourself. um, and then once you understand what you're telling yourself, then you got to combat it. How do you combat it? You start to tell yourself something else. Tell yourself, what you want to do and what you want to become. You got to start speaking to yourself more than you listen to yourself. And for so many of us, we just role play this story over again, and we just think that's just what it is, instead of identifying the story that was playing in our mind, combat it, and then talk to tell yourself, versus just listening to this story that's replaying over and over again.
Oh, that is powerful. Talk to yourself more than you listen to yourself. Okay, I'm taking that one home. All right, we can just stop. But no, but that's true, to be able to identify and know that, because I think, especially these kinds of, at least I'll speak for me, my beliefs of what I have
Mhm.
about low self-worth was things that I just they were they were my truth,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't facts.
Exactly.
And I just, and I can say this, the same thing with you. I felt that my whole life before Primerica prepared me for Primerica. I almost felt like God put me through a special kind of training.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get to Primerica, we're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So so you have to talk to yourself and talk to yourself. Are there any do's or don'ts with that? Like any rules about what you say?
Um, I mean, so the things that I told myself, okay, I can only talk about what I did. Because I don't know if there's rules of what to say and what not to say, but you want to identify what you want out of life. Like really identify where you see yourself versus where you currently are. And start working towards that. Like literally, you gotta retrain your brain on what you want out of life. And I think for especially for women, we take care of everybody else and we put ourselves on this back burner and we don't know who we are. We don't know what we're capable of because we've been taking care of everybody else. We take care of our husband, we take care of our kids, we do this at the job, we work here. Like we think we're multitaskers when really you're not. You're running yourself crazy. And this is what I share people all day long. You got to think about this. Think about a computer, right? And a computer that has a lot of tabs open, right? It runs slow because there's too many tabs open.
Mhm.
So with women, we're doing so much. We're doing this. We got all these tabs open in our head and we wonder why nothing's getting accomplished. We have to learn how to close the tabs, take a step back and think about what is it that I really want out of life? What is it that I really want to be? And then start working on those tabs. Like it's okay to say no. I had to tell myself, Chanika, it's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes to everybody. I'm a recovering yes person. I'm a recovering people pleaser, you know, and I think because when you go through so much in life, you just want people to be happy. You want them to like you want nobody not to like you. So you just say yes, and I'm here and I'll do it. And okay, what you want me to do? And literally you don't say no. And then you realize you look up, it's like you're doing all this stuff, you don't even want to do it. And so it's okay to tell people no. They'll be okay. But I think we feel like they're not gonna like me if I say no. At least I can only talk for me.
No.
And so I didn't want people to be mad at me. So I didn't like confrontation. Not realizing that confrontation is not a bad thing. It really isn't. It's just two people that are disagreeing on something, and sometimes you got to learn how to disagree, and that's okay. But when you're a recovering people pleaser, you just want to please people, and so you do all this stuff. You get all these tabs open, and you have no idea what you're doing.
Wow, that's not great analogy. And I think, isn't it true too, before we even get to that point, because you had this vision that you knew you could create your own reality. But I
Mhm.
also, I mean, I'll speak from my own experience that when I was a victim of my circumstances and a victim of life, that I could never have thought about the life I wanted. If I did, it was like Cinderella, which doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
No, there no,
Oh, that
no.
doesn't happen to me.
That's right. That was not my household. That was not my zip code. So
Hmm.
when you look at that, so what would you say? Like, because you very quickly got out of the victim mode, and you have all of the reasons, but yet you chose not to, and to be that black sheep and all that. So, where do you think that people have like there's that victim mentality that hamstrings you from being able to move forward with that?
Absolutely, it is. I've always said I'm a truth teller, and so that's why Primerica didn't come hard for me because I'm a truth teller, um, and so I never liked being a victim. Like that was never in my vocabulary that I'm a victim of something. And so even when I spoke up about being molested, I was in a fifth grade. And literally when I say I was the black sheep of my family, it really was that. But I was okay with that um, because I had to speak my truth, and so literally that's when I became the truth teller. And my sister, she coined me, I'm gonna show you, but I can tell you. That's what she tells me. You that person that's gonna tell people I'm gonna show you, but I can tell you. Like, okay, you don't believe me? Watch me, I'm gonna show you. And literally I am. Like, that's literally how I operate. Like, okay, you don't believe it? Watch. I'll show you. And I've done that literally my whole life. When I had my daughter, they said, "Oh, you're gonna have another one." Oh, no, I'm not. Watch me.
Hmm.
And so, I had to recognize the things that I was putting myself through, because you put yourself through it and you don't even realize it. When you start dwelling on what happened to you or being a victim, like that's something you put yourself through. That person that wronged you or whatever, they don't even know that you upset or that you're still dwelling on it. They ain't gone on with their life. And here it is, you all messed up in the head because you mad and upset and dwelling on whatever it is that happened. And that's no matter what it is. It can be
Right.
someone lied on you, or it can be someone, you know, whatever the wrong is. And you dwelling on it is you doing more harm to yourself than you are to anybody else. And so you have to really recognize and acknowledge when you're acting as a victim. And so many people act as a victim in so many different situations. And because a victim means I have no control over it. When you are an adult, you have control over it.
That's true.
Like there's no such thing as being a victim. Now, as a child, that's something totally different. But
Right.
as an adult, you're not a victim. You're choosing to be a victim. And so you got to recognize that and know that you do have control over what happens to you,
Mm.
and create your surrounding. And so
That's
I don't like being a victim. I just don't. That's just not who I am. I don't care
no.
what it is.
And I would say that there's no way you could ever become truly wealthy for as long as you hold that victim label.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have no control. You'll
Yeah.
never be wealthy. You will always be a, a calamity, someone else's crisis,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, wow, that's incredible. So, but where are some of the, so these, I'm just kind of going in this, I'm going in there.
Well, my brain is deep.
All right. So, you know what?
My thought process is deep.
This is good. This is good. Because I think, too, when you think about, business or women, there's a couple of things I like to think about. First off, women love to compare. We constantly compare,
Yes.
and when you're in a competitive environment of whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, compete, don't compare. I'm like, us women, we may be nice, but we're going to rip you down.
Right.
so,
That's right. We do.
so kind of talk about how is that work? How can we change that? Because having a competitive spirit's great, but how can that be detrimental, and how can maybe we change that?
Absolutely. That's a good question. Because when you compare, and if you compare yourself that, to someone you think that, that where you should be, you automatically put yourself in a defeat mode. And a defeat, I call it the defeat zone. And when you feel defeated, you bring more defeat to you, because that's the thought process that you're in. And so you really comparison is not a good thing at all, because people come in different levels. No matter what it is, someone may have, a different background, different upbringing, different set of skills, and they come into an environment, something like Primerica, and they may get to somewhere quicker than you did, but that's their journey and that's where they came from. And so when you start to compete with that person, not realizing, what they brought to the table, what environment they're in, you automatically feel defeated. And so then when you feel defeated, everything else is everything's wrong now. Everything's wrong. And you can be really succeeding, but because you're in this defeat zone, everything's going wrong. And so you got to put your mind frame in a success zone. And so I tell people all the time, you have to get in the back in the mode where you succeeded in, whether it was in sports, whether it was accolades in academics, or whatever it was where you succeeded. Put your mind back in that succeed area, so that way you can bring success to you, because you bring to you what you think. And so if you're always comparing yourself and you're feeling defeated all the time, then you're going to continue to bring that to you.
Okay, so wait. This is too big to just gloss over. I know
Okay.
I have, and you're so deep, and then you have to catch me. I'm slow.
Okay.
But so people, when we compete and compare, we're always, it's like the word just. It's never going to be. It's a sense of lack, and we're already that shallow belief. You're not good. Look at that person.
Absolutely.
But what you told us to do was to go into a success zone. Think about time. So can you unpack that a little bit more for me, please? Please.
Okay. Okay. So here's a prime example I'll just share. Okay. So when I first got in Primerica, and I went off to a fast start, I really did. But at the same time, as women, we compete and we're comparing with, so there was another person, another female that got to like 300,000 very quickly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Like, how come I'm not where she is? And we got to be at the same time. And I'm just beating myself up. Okay. And nothing good comes from beating yourself up.
Mm,
Nothing good comes from,
mm.
we beat ourselves up so much. Nothing good comes from that. And so I was at a conference, at a women's conference, and another lady came up to me, and she really helped me with this. She was like, you know, um, that's her story. And she basically said, you need to run your own journey. And she said, build your business the way that you're going to build it. Don't compete with that person. That person may be working too hard. You never know and she literally just said she working too hard. She said, I have a business that does what she's doing, like by herself. Because this person was doing like a lot of premium on her own pen. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, what's wrong with me? Well, how come I'm not doing that? And another female came to me and said that. So I was like, okay, let me stay in my zone and build the way I'm going to build it. And that helped me out so much. It really did. Just knowing that, okay, let me just, it's okay to compete with somebody, just don't compare where you are to where they are, which is kind of hard for women, but we gotta understand that we can't compare because it does nothing good for you to compare yourself to somebody else. It just doesn't.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's very detrimental to your growth when you compare yourself to somebody else.
And what do you feel about when you have, and women are just vicious with other women,
Mm.
right? So when you have this female leader, and I know you know you're talking about, when you're running through and they're like, yeah, what do we do as women? Oh my God, look at her makeup. Oh my gosh, look at her hair. And like,
We start beating her up.
beat her up. And really what we're doing is we're beating ourselves up
Yep.
because we're like, well, she's all that great, but I
Mhm.
got better looking hair, that kind of thing. It's just, but that's what us women do. I mean, truly, and
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but women, we are just,
We're hard on each other.
we are hard on each other and ourselves.
Yep.
Like, I think our ability to forgive, and hats off to you for learning the power of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because I think,
That's powerful. And I really think more of us need to really dive into forgiveness and not realizing when you are able to forgive, you lift a whole brick off your shoulders because you're carrying this around. It's huge to carry unforgiveness around. And you become so much lighter when you learn to forgive, like literally forgive. And what does that mean? You don't hold that person, you know to this standard anymore. Like, you're putting them over your life, and once you forgive and you release it, then it no longer holds a weight on you. And that is so important, not to have this weight on you that is dead weight. It's literally when you have unforgiveness, that is dead weight. And so you have to release that dead weight so that you can move in life.
wow. So I would say that, emotions are good, right? Unforgiveness is less of emotion. I think it's more of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I really believe that if you cannot pass through that and let go of what, because we remember, what does my mom used to always say? I sometimes forgive, but I never forget. Used to always say that.
Yeah,
And so that the whole idea, so to be able to forgive others and have that release, you also feel that it also allowed you to forgive you.
absolutely. And that's really the bottom line, is learn how to forgive yourself.
Yeah. And even to get, because thinking about self-defeating, that I have a lot of experience with that. And to get into that success zone, right? I think at some point I'm going to have to say to myself, I forgive you. You're good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You did well. You're worth this. You know.
Yeah.
Now, do you
Say
ever
that
have,
again. I think people need to hear that.
which part?
I forgive you. Like telling yourself that
Yeah.
you're
You have to,
worthy. You're
you're
good enough.
worthy. You deserve this. You've earned this more that you, by breathing. Like, and I'll just say this, like today I had like a moment, and it was like that voice, right? And
Hmm.
you're like, get out of there. And it came back, and I thought, and I actually said this, is, you know what? I rebuke you because I'm a daughter of the Most High.
That's right.
And this is what I was chosen for. And it was crazy because the moment I did that, I took a deep breath and it was gone. But I had to forgive myself. I think just to be able to say, like, it's okay. Like, I think it's the only way you can compete and not compare is if
Hmm.
you can forgive yourself for not winning that competition.
Hmm.
Now, wouldn't you also think that women have a perfectionist issue too
Oh
with
my
that?
gosh. We want everything to be perfect and just right. Like, yeah, that was me. That I'm a recovering perfectionist. Because nothing's going to be just right. Like, nothing's going to be exactly how you want it. And being a perfectionist, you beat yourself up too. And you're very judgmental towards others because they don't hold your standard of perfectionist.
Okay, stop talking about me. I'm sitting here. I can hear you still. But no, but that's the truth because I think that perfectionism, which is is actually a compulsive behavior for most women.
Hmm.
I mean, that is really, I think, anorexia to some point, bulimia is about exerting that perfectionist control
Hmm.
and becoming compulsive. You don't have a lot of anorexic men,
No.
but you have a lot of anorexic women because I think we're just wired to have that kind of sense. Like, where do I fit? Where do everyone else fit? Like I was just like, if you
And
look at a cat,
that's probably because that's the only sense of control that we think we have. I mean, we're brought up in a world where men are the leaders and you are, the helpmate. And so as women, we have to have some sense of control. So we figure I'm going to have control in this area. And we become super controlling and super judgmental because that's the area that we think we have control over.
so again, forgiveness. Wow, didn't know this was going to be part of this thing. So,
I didn't either.
I
We said
know, but
it's
we're
going to
just
be,
rolling with it, with our 75 best friends. So, I mean, just kind of wrapping this up because we don't want to be too long in this, but wrapping it up, I think, what I'm hearing is you have to be aware of what you're thinking,
Mhm.
and know really where that comes from. So things like judgment on
Mhm.
ourselves or others or comparative thought, you got to listen to those voices and not just accept the dim, low murmur of all these beliefs. And then what I heard you say is you had to, consciously change your unconscious, as much as that means, and identify it, and then just constantly talk to yourself. Decide you're going to be the author of your destiny, that you are the author of your life even now,
Mhm.
which means if you don't like what happened, then change it.
Change it. And
Start
you can
writing something
change it.
different.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It can start horror and come out to be a hero novel like that in a
Mhm.
page. It's
Mhm.
just a decision. I think, and just find our success zone and the mentality of that. Because when you say that, I see you go in this place where you're like, which is going to be the convention.
Wow. No, I am.
When you're closing Saturday night speaker at the convention, that's the look I see when you go into success
I
zone.
received that.
You see that, and if people don't know, that is the MVP gets to speak of the entire company on Saturday night of convention. So that I can see you get there, and just self-help and just take control, right, and not be the victim. That's a lot.
And so what does this has to do with being worthy of wealth? It has everything to do with it. It has everything to do with it. And so you got to realize what's holding us back. All this stuff we're talking about right now. And it has everything to do with you feeling worthy of yourself, of you feeling worthy of the money to make. It has everything to do with that. And so people come with this baggage, and all of these are baggages we come here with, and then we wonder why we're not succeeding. Well, it's all this baggage you got to unpack. That's the self-improvement part of this business. Okay. It says it's a self-improvement with a nice compensation on the back end. This is all the unpackaged stuff you got to unpackage to self-improve.
And maybe this might be something that we segue for the next time, but how do we know? Because sometimes I think we got this. Like, I knew when I was younger and I was in my 20s, I thought I was all that, and I still wasn't, as
Mhm.
most young 20-year-olds are. How do you know when you're having dealings with this? And Bill Rinder said this to me, and I'll share with everybody else. If you know what to do and you're not doing it, you got to work on yourself. These are the issues that we're talking about now.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think also just, and if you are doing a lot of work in a system like ours where it's math, you do this, this, and this is going to happen. So if you're doing all this work and some of it's pipeline, but if you feel like I get everything, I got this great person, all of a sudden I don't call them back. Right? I lost their number, or oh my gosh, I was 30 minutes late from whatever it is that's consistently happening. Chanika, what would you say to someone who is in that position right now?
It's some deep-seated something that's happening that's causing you not to. You could be you know, you're either attracting people or you're repelling people, but it's something that's in you that you have to understand that's happening, that you're repelling people.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I mean, you get people that they can do all the right stuff, whatever the right stuff is. Even Art Williams says that, like, you know, it's that little bit more or whatever, and that little bit more is you working on you, improving you, can be that little bit more, you know, and it's always something that you got to improve in to help you attract the people you want to attract, to help you grow and get better. Because this is what you call it, a volunteer army that you're leading. That means they don't have to be here. See, when you work a job, if you're a manager at a job or you're some type of supervisor at a job, and you're quote unquote a leader at your job, people have to follow you because their job is dependent on it. Okay. But here, people don't have to follow you. You have to become the person that people want to follow. And I think that sometimes can be a detriment to people when they've been a supervisor somewhere else, or they feel like they were leading in another area, and then they come here and they're like, hold up, what's wrong? Like, I was, you know, a manager at my other job. Why? How come it ain't happening here? Well, you don't have to self-improve at a job. You know, this is a volunteer army that we're leading here. And so you really got to work on, it's a self-improvement business. You got to work on you to be the person that people want to follow.
And I think that might be our next topic next month is, you know, because we kind of went through a little bit of thinking, and now I think just kind of laying that foundation so we can move forward. And I'll end on this. You know, I know for a fact that there is some multiple people in this call that have been radically affected by what you've said tonight, Chanika. And thank you so much for what you do. And I look forward to having an army of 100,000 plus people to say it was because of you in 2021. Thank you so much. And I just want to tell you that really appreciate you.
I appreciate that.
It's truth. And you're looking at the comments in the chat. I hope you can see everyone's agreeing with me as well. And this is, you know, this is why we're all here, guys. And so we'll be here again the third Wednesday of February, which is, someone help me out here, someone who's a lot more, the 17th, February 17th. And you guys, until then, let's just, if you're having issues, just start thinking about what you're thinking about. And we'll see you guys next month. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.